Hi, everyone. Welcome. As you're joining us, put in the chat box, tell us where you're joining us from. Whoa, we've got a friend in Vermont. We've got Pennsylvania. A lot of friends in Pennsylvania. Ooh, Delaware. Ecuador. Whoa, you're international, Betsy. We've got Arizona. Excellent. So we just have, another Arizona. So welcome everybody to tonight's virtual program with the American Visionary Art Museum. I'm Becca Plum, the Director of Education, and we're so happy to have you joining us for our special happy hour in the artist studio with artist Betsy Youngquist. We're just so excited to dive into Betsy's studio and see how she uses the texture of beads and gems and other magical materials to transform objects into gorgeous sculptures. She had an amazing piece featured in the AVAM's The Great Mystery Show, that lovely rabbit sculpture, which maybe we'll talk about. I don't think we're going to see it today. Hopefully you got to see it when it was at the museum. Her work has graced the cover of American Style magazine, and she's also featured by the Smithsonian Craft Show. So Betsy's joining us live from her home in Rockford, Illinois. She has her cameraman, Scott. Thank you so much for your help tonight. Hello. And then we just wanted to show this piece quickly because this is a piece that Betsy's been working on recently, and her work is kind of taking on the theme of loss, which is maybe something that a lot of us can relate to. And we can talk a little bit more about that when we get into the studio. So Betsy, if you're ready, you want to take it away?
And thanks to everyone who's shown up tonight, and special thanks to the American Visionary Art Museum for asking me to do this. It's a lot of fun. I got some cleaning done, which is always a good thing. We're starting outside because I wanted you guys to see that Scott and I live in a typical neighborhood in a typical Midwestern town. Rockford has about 150,000 people in it. We're about 75 miles northwest of Chicago. Scott and I were both born in Rockford. It's our home. So this home that I'm standing in front of has been our home for about 25 years. Scott and I both have studios in this home. So let's go in. Come on in, welcome. And the first thing I wanted to show you guys, and I apologize for the closed doors. We have a rather loud parrot that we had to sequester to a bedroom. So if you hear something loud, it's Madison. The first thing I wanted to show you guys is a little bit of the work that's in our home. And over here, I have we reset the artwork from time to time, and we've just done that again. And this piece by Lynn Fisher Carlson, who's a friend of ours, and you'll find that a lot of the work that's in our home was created by friends, or it was created by Indigenous people. So I have a great affinity, and so does Scott, for Indigenous art. So that's kind of peppered through everything. And this piece, which is actually a piece about the blue collar worker and the white collar worker, just the angst and the green face seemed kind of appropriate for what we're going through with all the weather, the global climate, the politics, COVID. So it's a big scream. And I'm gonna take a sip. Happy hour.
Ooh, cheers.
I usually drink white, but we're doing red tonight. So come on. Oh, here's another one. Here's a new piece from a local artist right here that we love. We love his work. That is Jesus's work. Come on in. This room right here is that we're about to walk into is the living room, but it also doubles as my showroom when I'm trying to set up my work, when I'm going to exhibit it somewhere, like at an art fair, because I've done art fairs. I'm not doing very many anymore. I'm only doing one a year, which is Jazz Fest. But I've done art fairs for over 20 years. That's how I've made my living as an artist. And this room serves, it's about maybe 12, 13 feet wide. So my 10 by 10 tent fits really well in here. We push everything to the side and we put all my artwork up and we take pictures. And that's how I do setups for the outdoor and indoor shows that I do in this room. And I'm going to show you a little bit over here in a case that is kind of a little memento case. But I wanted to bring you over here because as a child, my parents took my brothers and I on about a 2 to 3 month camping trip through Canada. We went up to Whitehorse. We came down to Alaska. I had relatives in Juneau. And that's when I was 7 years old. And that's when I was first exposed to American Indian, First Nation, I'm having an Inuit, right? Okay, I'm having a little tongue blur there, but artwork. And I wanted to show you, this is actually a piece that my parents purchased in 1972 on that trip. So this type of artwork, this indigenous work where the artwork is not separate from the culture and from the ceremony, it is embedded in the society. And that I just love that about this type of artwork, because there's so much more energy inherent in it because it has this function that is spiritual. So this is a salmon, and then we have a bird, and I have a bunch of, there's a seal. But I just wanted to kind of show you that because, and there's another really cool piece of beadwork in here. I don't know if I can find it, but I have some beadwork in here as well that's old. Here's one that is, you can tell this, and I don't know where this came from. It is Native American from this country or American Indian, but you can tell this was pre-World War II because this is a migration symbol that was used. And, you know, you look at this and it's just so jarring because it's a swastika, but that was actually initially an American Indian symbol, and other cultures as well. So let's shut this little drawer and we're going to come over here. And this piece, as Becca said, I've been kind of working on artwork that revolved around loss, and it wasn't intentional. This particular piece is actually home because I'm going to rework the beak and the neck a little bit. I want the neck to be a little bit, you know, like when a raven or a crow is kind of pulling its face into its neck. I want to kind of emulate that by thickening the feathers. And then I want to maybe extend the gold a little bit up the beak. So I might remove some. So this one's home for a while. But the story with this piece is about, it was in May of 2018. We had a dog named Chaco, and he had liver cancer, and he died in the backyard. When I'm going to talk a little bit more about this upstairs, but he passed in the backyard, and we had a vet come out to assist with that. And his final days, because he had liver cancer, so he was slowly deteriorating, and there were 2 young crow babies that were being raised in the backyard. We knew those 2 crow babies and Chaco had some kind of a relationship. Chaco was always looking into the sky, would always note planes and birds. He was very, he was very aware of everything above him. So Scott and I decided that as a memorial to Chaco, our dog, which named after Chaco Canyon, because the first time I went out to Santa Fe in my 20s, I fell in love, and I went out there 7 times. I just fell in love with it. This bird, there's another one at our gallery in New Orleans, and they are Hugin and Munin. And Hugin and Munin are Odin of Norse mythologies, 2 ravens who he would send out every morning, and they would fly across the earth, and they would pay attention to everything that was going on. And then they would come back to Odin at night, and they would tell him everything they saw. So they were kind of like Odin's super spies. And the words Hugin and Munin, I researched it, and some people have some different twists on what the words mean, but basically are memory and thought. So we thought if we do 2 crow ravens and we name them Hugin and Munin, memory and thought, it would be a really nice memorial for Chaco. Now, to make this even a little bit further down that memorial road, Scott carved out an area inside this piece, and we put his fur and some of his ashes inside of it. And the ravens, the crows, the other one that's in New Orleans and this one, like actually Sally Ride, that was very much like Sally Ride, which was at the AVAM, have a presence to them. And I can't explain it other than when you're in the room out of your side vision and you pick this up, you think it's real. And for some reason, Sally Ride did that. Metamorphosis is a sculpture we did that. And then these ravens do that as well, or these crows. So
see, we have a few questions. So you said Scott created the form. What's the form underneath of the bird?
The form is made out of high density urethane foam. And I will tell you a secret. If you go to Sign Foam online, it's just like Sign and then Foam. It's a company, and if you're interested in it, they will send you a free sample pack of it's 3, I think, different densities. So you can see how it carves. It works like wood. It's a phenomenal carving material. So it comes in 4 by 8 foot sheets, about 2 inches thick. Scott laminates 2 sheets together. And then he just uses it as a carving block, and he carves out of that material. And then if needed, he will put rods in to stabilize it. This guy probably has rods up into his body from his legs, because this is just wire down here. So he will stabilize it as needed to strengthen the substructure, but it's a phenomenal material. It's called Sign Foam.
Is he attached to that base that you have him on, or that's just, oh, there he goes. I was thinking while you were showing this sculpture, like, do you put a lot of your sculptures like in your home just to like live with them for a little bit, or is this just a special one specific?
I usually don't put sculpture in the home. I do every once in a while, and it's interesting when I do that and I start becoming bonded with it, then somebody will buy it.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Kind of a good thing to do, I suppose. This one is just here because it's needs to be repaired, and so my studio, as you're going to see, is not very big. So it's just kind of hanging out here. And I will tell you, these little Post-its are little notes that sometimes when I partake and I smoke pot at night, I come up with ideas that might not be that good, but they might be. So I take little Post-it notes and I put it on here when I'm sitting on the couch at night.
Okay, that's good, because people usually don't write down their thoughts when they're smoking. So that's smart.
So that's that. Yeah, but I think as I read these, maybe one of them is a good idea and one of them isn't. So.
That's great.
But so are there any other questions right now, Becca?
No, somebody did ask again, who made the blue collar, white collar piece? And I'll type that name in the chat.
Lynn Fisher Carlson.
Carlson, you said?
Yeah. And she's a friend. And, you know, really, when I look around our home, so much of the work in our home is by friends. I mean, that's just, when I grew up in Rockford in the 20s, my 20s, Scott was in Milwaukee, but I was in Rockford, and I hung out with a lot of artists who were older than me. And this is Jenny Mendes right here. And then that's an art fair friend of mine who lives in Ohio. This is actually another memorial piece. And that group of people that I hung out with when I was in my 20s, this is actually, we had one of those people, he passed of liver cancer almost 10 years ago, and a mutual friend of ours made this as a memorial piece to him. So a lot of the art, we tend not to buy art if we don't know the people. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but this is another piece which I love. This is Stephen Anderson. He's a Rockford artist as well. He's self-taught. And then this was for Bunny Ball, because when Sally Ride left the AVAM, he came down to our gallery in New Orleans, and we had a ball for her to welcome her. So someone made this as a headdress for me to wear. Wow. But this one's wearing it. She had a big party, and we invited a whole bunch of people, other artists, to make rabbit themed pieces, and it was quite fun. And this is the work of John Deal. This is another local artist who's also a dear friend. This is an art fair artist, Leah Evans. And then you can see here, this is a Papua New Guinea mask from about just after World War II. Love it. I just love ethnographic old art. Matches, that's probably, that could be Iroquois as a tourist piece, 1900. And I love antiques too. And part of the antique thing, and that's a kachina from Flagstaff, probably 20 years old. This head pot is another one that Lynn made down here. That's Tracy Hambley. She's an art fair friend of ours. She's a mixed media artist. I gave her a bunch of materials that were meaningful to me, and then she made Betsy's little safe world in the middle of the dark jungle. That's what it's about. And that's just from a garage sale. This is from a garage sale. Ruth Eris made it.
I love it. You have so many different types of art, and you just like throw it in there and it works. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's just what we love. And this is Bob McCauley. He used to be an art professor in town. He's since moved to the Northwest coast where he's from. But we have a couple pieces of his, and they're trades. We did a lot of trading early on because artists don't have money, so we would trade. This is a piece over here that I just wanted to talk about just for a second, because the idea of a memorial piece and the energy we put into a memorial piece, and how maybe some of that energy is a tangible force that someone who experiences the art can then feel and pick up on. This piece is by Paulina Temmes, Temmes. She's from the Helsinki area of Finland. And I bought this from her, and these little spots on the elephant are tissue paper, hand stitched. It's just incredible. And this piece was about her grandmother's death. And I tell you, Becca, when I pick this piece up, I always just feel this little buzz of positive energy. It's the weirdest thing. And I'm getting chills about it. But I don't know exactly what Paulina puts into her work, but it's powerful stuff.
Yeah, I feel like you're one of those people that can pick up on that energy, coming from artwork and other places.
Yeah, I do something. Yeah.
Somebody wanted to see the bear painting a little close up, if you want to share that one.
This again is Bob McCauley.
Love that.
And he's in some galleries out west. And those are fake bird of paradises. There. But yeah, I love this piece with the two bears. I just love it. Quite a nice painting. It's one of our birds. And then you'll see, I also, we like bones and things. So here's a buffalo skull and a human skull, a shell. We tend to, in a crystal, quartz crystal, Brazilian quartz crystal, we tend to integrate natural elements in with the artwork as well. This is Mark Winters. He's a Milwaukee artist from the art fair circuit. Cool. Someone I know, and this is like the funnest piece. If you're having some people over and you have a coffee table, you just pull it up like a chair. And he has his own chair.
I like him. Well, show us a few more things in here, and then we can head. We want to see what's in the studio.
Okay. Let me see. What else can we show you in here? Go in here, I suppose. Let's see. Here. Oh, this is kind of. I know. We can show you. This is Greg Miller. We already saw one of his pieces. He's passed, but he was another local artist in his. When I was in my 20s, I would hang out with him. He was just a phenomenal artist. He suffered from bipolar disorder, and he really used his art as art therapy. It was really powerful. And this one, I have forgotten the name of this artist, but it's a silk painting and it's a rabbit. And it always takes me a while to find the rabbit, and the rabbit's right here.
Oh, wow.
Rabbit in there, but it's so delicate and soft. I just love it. And then here, I'm going to show you this piece, because this piece I actually got on eBay, but it is a painting that my great-grandmother did. My great-grandmother was an artist. She just did it for her own enjoyment. And I don't know where this house is, but I put a search in on eBay, so whenever her work shows up, I go snag it, because not very much of it has trickled down to me through the family tree. So I know that, some of my need to create is genetic. I had a grandmother as well who was very creative. And here's a good theme for right now. And look, I think this might be, this is your eye, I think.
Oh yeah, that's us.
Very on.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Should we show mats? Here's a mat piece. I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know his name. But this is Matt Herbig. He's another self-taught local artist. And this was actually, this was at SOFA at one point. But his themes are pretty intense. He was a crack addict for a while, and a lot of that showed up in his work. This was a really tame piece because he knew he was showing it at SOFA, so he didn't want to go off the rails. And I snagged it up.
Love it.
And I'm just going to talk about this just for a second, because this is Hundertwasser. He's an Austrian artist and architect. And this is the inspiration that really got me to go in the direction of adding materials to the surface of something. And at first it was foil paper that I cut up and glued, and then it eventually became beads. But when I was in Sweden at one point, and I saw this gentleman's work at a museum, and I just fell in love with it. And I started cutting up foil candy bar wrappers from Sweden and gluing those to the surface of paintings. And that was kind of my first foray into adding materials to paintings, because I was really a painter when I started doing art. The sculptural embellishment came after the painting. Now, here's a transitional patina from the 1960s. So it's kind of between when they were doing the realistic and then the more formal, rigid patina forms. Now, we're going to go into the bird room. And I have to go through this room to go to my studio. Okay, so
here's the bird.
We have two birds in here. We have a Solomon Island eclectus, and we have an African bray, and we have a gold-capped conure in the bedroom. Okay, so in here, this is the hallway up to my studio. We just painted it because it hadn't been painted in decades, and I've put some artwork up here to show you, and I really want to show you the beaded paintings, because I think it's kind of interesting how I had this crazy need to just add things to paintings that didn't feel finished. And that's what got me into the bead world. These are just some experimental abstracts that I did with beads, but I found out I used so many beads making them that it was a material suck. But they were just kind of a fun little thing to do.
Wow. Now, do they just stick to the paint, or you use something else on top of?
Well, these are actually these are not beaded paintings yet. So this is all beaded, and I used some like gloss medium acrylic varnish, and I also used Mod Podge. I was experimenting with some different materials, adhesives in this, so I used a variety, but basically like Mod Podge material.
Got it.
And so this is a beaded painting that I did about 2 or 3 years ago. And underneath this is a complete painting. So what I do is I take acrylic inks, and I use somewhat of a watercolor technique. And then when it's all done, I use the painting as a color guide for the beads. And so as we move to this next one, I wanted to show you this one, because this one, and I don't know the year on it. I should know the year because there's a Buffalo connection to it. But this shows you how it, in the beginning, and I was in my 20s, I'm gonna guess when I did this, or early 30s. 20, Scott? Did you? Yeah. I make a painting, but it doesn't feel finished. So what am I gonna do? I have to glue crap to it. So I started taking Christmas tree ornaments and smashing them and gluing those fragments, those antique glass ornaments. And then I started gluing beads down. And then here are some, maybe some greeting cards, some flowers I cut out, some different mixed media materials. And until I added the materials that didn't feel finished, even though it visually looked finished. Now, this particular piece, has an added layer of coolness to me, because when I made it, I was in Colorado and visiting relatives, and I made my first painting of a buffalo, and the painting was a white buffalo and it was a female. I called the piece home, and the same day I started this painting, a white buffalo was born in Janesville, Wisconsin, close to our home in Rockford, named Miracle, and she was a female.
Oh, wow.
Now, this also happened with a sculpture that Scott made of a white buffalo. I started beating it on the day that Yellow Medicine Dancing Boy was born in Connecticut. So for some reason, I have this white buffalo connection, and I just, you know, when that happens, you just, it's magic, you know, it's magic, and it just helps me feel so connected to what I'm doing, that it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
And you're going to see, here's another piece that I did 2 years ago. And there are a lot of crystals. It's supposed to be like a cave, and there are crystals. I went through, and if you remember that from the Mystery of Secrets, I had these dark trees that had crystal clusters growing out of them. That was part of that crystal phase where I couldn't get my hands off of, or couldn't keep my hands away from crystals. And then you can see here are some masks. I love masks. And on the other side of this wall, you're going to see foundry forms from Memphis, because I'm really material driven in what I do. And these foundry forms are all from the middle of the 20th century, and they would be for streetcar parts, train parts, steamship parts, and each one of these is handmade, and they're so beautiful just as this object. And when I go to this antique store in Memphis and get these, what I do is I pick the ones that already has a face to me. Then I take them and I figure out what animal it wants to be.
Oh my gosh.
And they're fast.
Wow.
They're very satisfying. No, Scott's giving me the eyeballs right now, but
I think they're really cool.
I get instant gratification. You know, I mean, some of these beaded pieces I do take months. Well, if I can do something in a few days, you know, I need that instant gratification. Plus, they're just fun to do. So yes, who knew that foundry forms were faces?
Pretty cool. Yeah, it's like a little warm up to whatever you're
Yeah.
making, like your big
Yeah.
art.
You know, it absolutely is. And when I do smaller pendants, I feel the same way, because I do these little pendants that have eyes in them, and I've been doing them for 20 years. But I get to use new materials, experiment with new materials, new techniques on these little pendants, and then if I like it, it goes to the bigger pieces. And here's one more. Here's another beaded painting that I did, almost 20 years ago. This was the year after another white buffalo. This is the year after my dad died. And this was just about me coming kind of out of my grief underground and facing the real world again. And I don't know if you noticed, but in 3 of these paintings I just showed you, there were UFOs, because I have been fascinated with UFOs since I was a little kid. Scott and I both had together a sighting.
That's what I was going to ask you next, is did you have a sighting?
We had a sighting in, it was about 4 years ago in Blanchardville, Wisconsin, at my mom's house. We actually reported it to MUFON, the Mutual UFO Reporting Network. They investigated it, and their conclusion was that it was an authentic anomalous sighting, which, you know, means it was the deal. And I've also had a dream once that was like it was a dream about a screen memory, where I kind of think it was an abduction thing, but I don't have any memory of being abducted, but I had this weird dream that I made a painting based on it, but I don't have any images of it. But it was almost like the dream was trying to trick me, that they were going to do something to me, and they were trying to trick me, thinking I was just in an auditorium watching a lecture, when really they were coming at me with a needle. It was a trick. So we're in my studio. Yay! Okay, this is the studio, and this is pretty small for an art studio, but luckily I use really small materials. It's got air conditioning and heat in it. It's just my little home away from home. upstairs. And I thought what we could do is maybe go around the perimeter and I'll open some drawers and we can look at some of the materials.
Yep.
So that sounds.
Let's do it.
Is that good?
Okay. Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, so this was random when I first did it, but this is the third time I've opened this drawer, so it's no longer random. So I randomly open a drawer. These are Navettes. Now, sometimes I categorize things by the shape. Sometimes I do it by color. Sometimes I do it by type of glass. It just depends on how much I have of something and how much space I have for storage. These are canoe shaped. So whenever you see a stone like this is called a navette. It's shaped like a canoe. The back of it has the gold foil on it, and that's what they would paint on the back to kind of enhance the reflective quality of it. So this entire drawer is filled with different flavors of navettes or little canoes. Nancy Josephson uses a lot of these too. This handful is something that Nancy and I just went out to Providence a couple of months ago, and we went material mining, and we both came home with some of these.
Oh.
It's really fun.
It is. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
So all of these drawers have, here's pear, that's another shape. I have leaves, I have flowers. Over here I have, oh Scott, I wanted you to, that's kind of a fun thing. Over here I have abalone. So this is old stock abalone. I love using the natural materials. Again, I think that the materials have energy in them. And when you bring materials to a piece and you weave those materials together, you're informing some kind of energy into that piece that you might not even be aware of. I think intention also does that. I think what's just on our mind when we're working on a piece goes into a piece. So it's when it's a natural material like abalone, I love that it's lived in the sea because it's bringing some of that energy and narrative to the piece.
Betsy, we do have a question. Well, somebody's just asking about different material sources. I mean, if you could share just a few of those, I think that would be cool.
Different materials versus,
or like where you would purchase things. Mm-hmm.
So for the navettes, for these old costume jewelry components, and I'm going to show you this because this is kind of interesting. It came in this batch, but this shows you how you get them raw. Now, and these came probably from Wolf E. Miro in Providence, Rhode Island. That's where Nancy and I went. We went to Waliga, Wolf E. Miro, and where else did we go? J.F. Allen. We went to those three in Providence, Rhode Island, and bought materials. When you go to, some of them have websites, but the materials on their website is minuscule compared to what they actually have on site. I wanted to show you this. So this is what they would do with these old, glass faceted cabochons. They'd make earrings out of it. But you can still buy the raw materials like this that have never been put into costume jewelry. So those are the best sources for like navettes, pears, bigger beads, flatbacks, like over here. This drawer is filled with, opaques, flatbacks, non-foil, orange and red. So, and Becca already knows this, but I had an intern this summer who organized all this. She was wonderful, and her name is Lily. So I kind of don't even want to touch this drawer because she did such a wonderful job. But this is another type of material you would find at those three places I mentioned. This is an opaque cabochon flatback, and here are some other ones. I mean, they're just so yummy, and the colors, they don't make these colors in the glass anymore. So if you want certain palettes, you kind of have to go old. Did that, see if that answered the question? Because I also get beads from Caravan, when we're talking seed beads, Caravan, Harmon. Now some of these places you have to have a resale certificate, and then Shipwreck beads in Washington State. So those are, I would say, there's also a place called CJS Sales in New York that has a lot of this material. That's another place. Some of these you need a resale certificate, some of them you don't. It just depends. But yeah, definitely the East Coast was kind of the mecca for all this material to be imported in the last century, and they still have it. It's still there.
Yeah, the Wolf E Miro has been like the AVAM's favorite because we just get like huge bags of mix them ups that we can put in our kits. That's what we've been using a lot of. So everybody should check that website out.
You know, what's funny is that when we were just there, Nancy's on the phone with Ted everywhere we went. Okay,
I know.
You want these? You want these? So she was doing some shopping for Ted, and we were just there.
I love that.
So
that is something good to mention actually, is at the sideshow at the museum, if you are local, Ted has a lot of beads there that Nancy did bring back from those shops. So you should check that out.
Yeah, Wolfie Myra, you go to these places, you can, you know, the first time I went in, they said you have 2 days, right? I'm like, no, I have a day. They're just, it's a wonderful hunt. It's just great fun.
Mm-hmm.
We can go over here, and this table is just kind of, these are finished pieces, but some of them aren't finished. It's just kind of my hodgepodge table. This is something we tried to do. We tried to do these, again, you're going to see a UFO in here. Alan Hynek, I saw him interviewed when I was in grade school, and I wanted to be a UFO researcher. That's how far back it goes. But this, we were trying to get this resolved. We never really got it resolved yet, but that was a foray into kind of a more of a three-dimensional and flat at the same time piece.
And then where do you get all your baby doll faces? Like, are you like the person that's just like grabbing them from the thrift store, or is there a place that you can just buy them for all the faces?
I get almost all of them on eBay anymore.
Oh, okay.
Cool. I used to have to go to garage sales and thrift stores and things like that, but eBay is just, it's a wonderful resource. And I'm hoping that I naturally am not getting super precious ones, because I'm not going to spend that much money on them.
Right.
So, you know, they're usually flawed or not the real pristine, perfect one. I feel a little bit better about having Scott like cut them apart and stuff.
Right. Cool.
Got some more here. It's just odds and ends. And then this was kind of funny. This piece, I have 2 of them that are done. Scott carved it, was supposed to be a tadpole. And this was right when we first were quarantined with COVID. And instead of making tadpoles, I made 3 monsters. So this is the 3rd, because apparently I was in a monster mode. That was the 3rd one. I just haven't gotten a chance to beat it yet. But you can see this is that high density urethane foam that I was talking about, the sign foam that Scott carves. And it's light, it's strong, you can drill into it, saw it, sand it, rasp it, epoxy clay to it. It's also, it has a low OV. It's not super bad for the environment, which is another good thing. And then here's one that I'm still working on, a cracked head, I like to say.
How does Scott carve the foam? Like, what kind of tools does he use? Like, how do you carve? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, hi. This is Scott. Let's see. It's usually manual tools, handsaw. Sure, you can use a bandsaw for bigger things, but usually just a handsaw and rasps, files. And that's really about it. It's pretty friendly to carve. It's fast to carve. Yeah.
Great.
And this is kind of, this is the area where the eyes live.
Oh, good. And I was hoping we would get to the eyes.
Yes. So I have different kinds of eyes that I use. These are all human glass prosthetic eyes. Ooh. Now, some of the brown ones, this was a sample kit. The green ones are from India. I just popped those in, but this is how they would have a sample kit of different shades of, say, a brown eye with a little cotton puffs. So I do use some glass human prosthetic eyes. I also, though, use some eyes that are contemporary and they're made out of resin. It just kind of depends on what's available at the time. And then here are some giant ones that are made out of resin. But what I use more than anything else are really the doll eyes. So these are all doll eyes in here. These are all doll eyes. These are doll eyes. And they come, when they're shaped like this, This is called a pinchback because you can obviously tell it's been, maybe if I just do it like that, the glass has just kind of been pinched in the back. And then I have ones that are globes like this. These are all antique doll eyes. And I try to use glass more than anything else. Sometimes I do use that resin, but I don't like to use plastic because I don't know what it's going to do over time. And then I have this, which someone just gave Scott. And I've used teeth in my work before, but I've never used real teeth. And someone just gave us this jar of real teeth. So don't know what's going to happen with that. And here's David Bowie. This is Damon Melanson. He's a New Orleans bead artist. He's also the big chief of the young Seminole hunters. He's a Mardi Gras Indian. And I commissioned him to do David Bowie for me because whenever I'm doubting myself as an artist, David Bowie shows up in a dream. Now I know it's not really David Bowie, but he shows up in a dream and he kind of sets me straight and tells me that I'm here to be an artist. So I had Damon to make a little David Bowie head for me.
Betsy, sorry to go back to the eyes.
Yes.
Where do you get some of your eyes from?
eBay. I get them on eBay, except for the ones that are made out of resin like this. It's Fourth Seal Studios. And these guys cost me about, these are like $26 a piece, something like that for these. But eBay, you can get, I mean, really, it's just if you see B Young 407 bidding on it, go bid on something else. Okay.
Okay, we won't outbid you on the prosthetic eyes.
And then I have just beads that are in, well, these are just bigger loose beads. These are also loose beads. And I have them done by color. Can they see it, Scott?
I see.
So it's all, these are loose, they're all organized by color. And then these are strung because sometimes the technique I use, I want them to be on a string. And sometimes it doesn't matter. And I call that junk beading because I just sprinkle. So these are all the ones that are on a string because when I apply a bead that's on beads that are on a strand, I can set a row in the glue and pull the string out and leave a row behind. So it's a quicker way to apply beads if you want them in a linear fashion. So these are all beads by color, but these are all beads that are on strands. And Nancy did show me how to use a bead spinner. So I have been doing some bead spinning of some beads if I have them loose, but it takes a long time, but it's fun. It's really fun. And then these are my, here's another UFO. These are my shiny, sparkly flatbacks. So these are rhinestones. And I just love these sparkly rhinestones. So I have them in all these different colors. Wow. And this is, again, each drawer is kind of color coordinated. But I just started using these a few years ago. These kind of, some of them are Swarovski, some of them are Preciosa. There's some different companies that make them. In Europe, but I just love adding a little sparkle. I like contrast in a piece. I want it to be dull someplace, more active in another place. And this allows me to kind of push contrast a little bit.
Yeah. Well, let's see what you're working on. What do you have on the table?
How much time do we have back on, not to be that direct? But...
Probably about 15 minutes and then any final questions.
Okay, over here. Thank you. Okay, so the reason we showed this particular painting in the beginning, because I wanted to tell you about this day. Because this day that our dog died was such a profound day, and I wanted to memorialize it in artwork. And 3 months ago, we lost one of our birds, one of our parrots. It was a conure. We'd had her for 23 years. And with the loss of that pet, I made a realization that these paintings, and there's another one as well, but these paintings about Chaco's death needed to be finished. So I did a beaded loon, like this, somewhat like this, and put a little shrine to our bird inside of it. That's one of the lost pieces. And then I finished up a couple paintings that were about loss. Now, this particular day, Chaco was in, he had liver cancer. He was not doing very well. He was in the garage in the morning. The cement floor was cool. It was the day we were going to have the vet come and put him down. And I leaned over him in the garage and I got this flash of an elephant. And I'd had a past life regression class when I was in my early 20s. And there were elephants in one of the lifetimes I remembered. And I knew that Chaco had been an elephant in a past life and we'd had a special relationship. And that just happened in a flash when I knelt down next to him in the garage floor. I was like, whoa. So then we are making a decision to have the vet come that afternoon. We decided to take Chaco to the park for the last time. He's off the leash. He's going through the woods. I'm following him. Scott's there with our friend Dory. They're on the path. I'm following Chaco through the woods, through a creek, you know, wherever he wants to go. It's morel mushroom hunting season. I think he's trying to show me where some morel mushrooms are. But instead, what he showed me was a little Burton bag that was a stash bag. It had 2 chambers with fresh pot in it, a little pipe, a little cleaner. It was all super clean and new. So for some reason, Chaco showed me this little bag that someone had left. So I picked it up. Right then it was time to go. And I came home. The vet came and we put Chaco down. And as Chaco was leaving his body in the backyard under the magnolia tree, in my mind's eye, I saw his dog friends who had already passed come and greet him and take them with him. And then that's Ashley, Nisa, Juno, and Woody. So then that evening, we're sitting in the backyard and we're smoking the pot that we found that, you know, we're really sad and we're just hanging out and we're smoking some pot. And I start opening up the boxes that I had gotten in the mail that day. And I had forgotten that I'd even ordered this. And I had ordered a stuffed elephant that I had forgotten about. And it just was this cap to this day of how even in the pain of losing such a dear friend, there were so many little miraculous miracles that happened. It made us feel so supported. And I just wanted to share that because in this time of loss, if we're open to seeing all the magic and all the miracles that surround times of loss, I really think it's there if we can get ourselves to see it. And it's just so fortifying for the heart. So what I did with this stuffed animal that came that day is I made this little memorial to Chaco and we called him Chaco Man and Kid Boy. So it says man and kid. And I want all these things to keep these because I want to remember what happened that day because it was just Chaco was in pain and he's not in pain anymore. And it was such a beautiful day. Okay, so and this painting is in our gallery in New Orleans. This is just a print that I had printed of it.
Oh, okay.
And then let's come over here quickly because we don't have a lot of time. I could talk for 2 hours, you guys.
Wait, Betsy, there's one question. Do you ever do any like Huichol type beading like in the wax? Like, have you tried that?
I have not tried beading in the wax, though I do embed in epoxy clay, which is a similar technique. And sometimes it's, you know, whole side up. I don't use the needles they use, but I have never tried the wax. I am aware of Huichol work. I think it's absolutely lovely. It's beautiful, but I haven't tried the wax. I'm kind of worried that it's going to melt and things are going to fall apart, but I don't know. So this work right here is all eye centric, and my work, for some reason, I need to do eyes. I've been doing eyes since I was in high school. I remember in high school, I did like a blow up pen and ink of a whale's eye and a dog's eye. If I'm going to doodle, I do eyes. I don't know why, but my thing is the eye. And so even though I've been doing eyes for, you know, decades, it's still something that I want to do. And when I make a piece, I start with the eyes. If I'm going to make some kind of an animal or creature, I start with the eyes. Now on this piece right here, flower power is a theme at the gallery right now. So we're trying to be light with COVID and everything. So I've been making these flower pieces, and what Scott does is he cuts the doll head right across where the eyes are. I pull the sockets apart. I then put the eyes in those holes, and it gives me an ability to make the eyes bigger. There's more expression. Mm-hmm. So I'm like this big eye person too. I don't know why, but it makes it fractures these hybrids and it makes them more, it makes them more homogenized or something by fracturing the faces and making them more to the flower, more to the form that they're nestled in. Mm-hmm. This is an example of a pre-existing form. This was a paper mache fish from the Philippines that I started beading, and you can kind of see here the eyes. Start with the eyes, and then I outline. And you can see the coral cabochons that are outlining. Then I do the fins and tail, and then I start tackling the large body area. I always have to contain my space and section it before I start. And then this one is going to be, well, I'll tell you this one first. So this one I just made. He hasn't even been grouted. I'm going to grout all these in the next couple of days in the backyard. I'll put tile grout on these.
Oh, okay.
Clean it off. This little guy I made purely for comfort. I was sitting at my desk and I had this face, this head was just by itself. And is this a bit over here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Was just sitting there. And then this is a clay bird body that I bought in a garage sale. And I put the head on the head, and it just was this little creature who just, I needed him to be done. And he was a yellow little ducky, and he just sat and watched me, and it made me happy. So sometimes I make these little instant friends when I need a little, they're not instant, but when I need a little friend, I'll make a little friend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about you with all these faces and eyes, like during quarantine, when really we only get to see people on the screen, you know, like a year ago. And it was like, you had like all your little faces there to stare at.
It's something to talk to them. I mean, it's a little whacked. I'll come up here at night and I'll say, okay, what do you want me to do next time? You want these beads or these beads? But relationships. Scott's giving me the
It's true. It's true.
Well, you know, I believe that these guys all have their own personalities, their own characters. Just because they don't have blood running through them, I still think they're giving us energy. And every little one of these little creations is leading me through it. I'm not leading, you know, I'm not the ringleader here. Yeah. My job is to listen to what they want to become and then follow it and do the best job that I can do. And this particular one is a beautiful carving that Scott made. I mean, look at how beautiful this is.
It is beautiful.
And this is going to be a resurrection piece for New Orleans, because obviously New Orleans just was hit by Ida, and Scott and I have an art gallery in the French Quarter down there, and it was unscathed. But our manager has major damage to her living situation. So this is going to be a little resurrection pelican that I'm making just for myself and New Orleans.
I have a question, Betsy. Do you like keep a sketchbook, or are you the type of person that just like jumps right in, like, and plays with materials and then creates?
I don't. I'll doodle on the paper just to do it, but I don't. If I'm doing a painting, I just sit down and draw the painting. If I'm going to do this, so I don't sketch. Scott always wants me to sketch, and I don't like to sketch. So he likes to sketch. So of course he wants me to sketch. But what I will do is I'll take a marker and I'll draw, just like I know I'm going to put some of these red cabs here. So, and here's that eye before it's beaded. So I might just mark outlines out. So I would use this as the canvas and then draw on the actual form with a marker or a pencil. But I don't like sketch two-dimensionally at all.
What's the name of your gallery? Some folks are asking.
It is called Myth Gallery, MYTH. And it's at 831 Royal Street. There's not a really good logo in that here. I can show you this one. Oh, there. Myth Gallery.
Got it.
Yeah. And we're going to open our shutters, I think, next week. It's been boarded up since the hurricane.
Wow.
Yeah. That was pretty intense, but nothing, our manager has been in the gallery and not one single thing fell off of a shelf or a pedestal or the wall. We were just super lucky. And is that better? Did you show them the code of the door? Show them the, okay, I do sketch sometimes though.
Let's see. Oh, here we are.
That's about as much as I sketch.
Well, it looks like you have a little vision board happening over here, which is cool.
The rigid board.
Your vision, like a vision board.
Oh, yeah. This is just, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yes, this is just art that inspires me. A lot of times it's the palette in something. UFO, you know, David Bowie, some things are pretty obvious. I have my grandmother up there as well. But, you know, this, oh my gosh, this kind of stuff. You know, I don't know if you guys are into ancient aliens, but my goodness, there's a lot we don't know. And just because we don't know doesn't mean we should come up with answers that are wrong.
Totally. No, totally.
And here's one. Here's one that was about. This was about 19 inches by 19 by 19. This pleated UFO.
Do you have any more things you're working on that you can show us before we sign off in a few minutes? I told everybody it's last call for questions if we have any other burning questions.
Tell me about this one. Do you want me? I can tell you about this one, or we don't need to. It's your call, Becca. Okay.
That's fine. And what about that little lady with the bunny ears next to it?
Okay, so this, I was at an art fair and a woman came into my booth in St. Louis and she came up to me and she said, "You're not from here. You're not from here." And I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. And she said, go behind your booth. So we went behind the booth into the back room and she pulls up her sleeve and she's got a big tattoo of a UFO and an apple. And it walked by my work and knew. She's like, you've been with aliens. You're not from here. She's had lifelong abductions. She's led an abduction group. She's met with a lot of the big names in the abduction world. And we had a friendship that started, and she still we follow each other on social media. And I wanted to do a piece about her. So I decided that I was going to make, and the bunny ears were a second thought, but I was going to do an apple. And then I was going to do an alien. I was going to darken the eyes and do an alien in the apple and then have her on this hill. But I called her, and because I wanted to have more information from her because I wanted more narrative content. So I called her on the phone to interview her. And her stories were just so nebulous, like a lot of abduction stories are. You know, they're not concrete. They're not black and white. They're kind of gray. And so as she's telling me these stories, it wasn't giving me any more information for the narrative. So now I think it might be my mom, it might be me, I'm not really sure. It might not be an alien that's going to go in there. But and here Scott did carve this hill. But that kind of tells you, sometimes I make a piece and I don't, get started, but the narrative hasn't caught up with me. Right. So I just have to see where it lands. And that's what this one is. I'm just kind of waiting, and who knows, maybe it won't have anything to do with aliens, but that was the impetus for it, was this woman I met at the St. Louis Art Fair.
Love that. If people want to purchase your work or learn more about it, where can they find it?
They can find it at Betsy Youngquist on Etsy or the Myth Gallery website. If you look up Myth Gallery New Orleans, we also have a store in there and some narrative or some information, bio information and such. So Etsy or Myth Gallery. And if you're in New Orleans on Royal Street, come visit us. We're right down the street, literally a block, and on the same side of the street from Chris Roberts and T.O.'s gallery. Oh, so there's this nice little group of pretty cool people that have galleries in that area of Royal Street. Yeah. And Chris actually is the one who talked me into having a gallery in New Orleans, partly. So it's her fault.
Amazing. It's her fault. Yeah, we had her actually do her studio tour, which was really fun. So let's see, last call for questions, everybody. People are very inspired. Thank you so much for sharing your home and space. Yeah, it was really great having you here. And where's that? You said the rabbit's in the gallery. Is it just like the little patron of the gallery, or?
It's kind of like our mascot for the gallery. And people have pictures. Sally Ride has been photographed so many times, because people walk by the gallery and have to go in and it's a photo op. So she just stands, poses, and everybody takes pictures with her. Yeah. But she's just our gallery mascot. She's a hoot. We love her.
Love her. I know it was great having her there at the museum, because some people, it was just funny to see kids. Some kids were like interested, some were afraid, some were, you know, what the heck is this? Is somebody in there? Yeah. We, we loved having your work.
Well, I loved being there. It was a real highlight, and thank you guys for having me do this and for inviting me into your museum, because it really, seriously, it was a highlight of my career. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Betsy. And
Welcome.
thank you everybody for joining us tonight on our virtual happy hour in the artist studio with Betsy. Yeah, people are saying incredible. They're loving it. You can find her at mythgallery.com. And also just stay tuned. We have more virtual programs coming up this fall and winter. So thank you, Betsy, and we hope to visit you again soon.
Sounds good. All right. Bye, Becca. Bye, guys. Thank you.